It's Monday. Fired Up Monday doesn't quite sound as good as Fired Up Friday, but I'm fired up. Thrilled to be here. We are having some technical issues, so I'm not sure why our YouTube isn't going live, but we're gonna figure that out. We do. I think we're on, or I think we got the Rumble going. All right. I had a great weekend. I almost put up a show yesterday. Oh, hold on. There we go. Uh, it is working on Rumble on YouTube. That's great. Okay. So what's going on? The American system. We're going to go into that. We're going to skip over to LA and talk a little bit about the election because that's huge too. I had a great weekend. I did sort of exactly what I love on a perfect weekend. Spend time with my family, listened to a few great sermons, walked my dogs, exercised. It was great. Okay. I hope you guys had a great weekend too. And like I said, I was fired up and almost came on and did a show. All right, let's get into it. First, I try to go on before every show and check to see if Trump's done any truth socialing. This is his account. This is like whatever that is, half an hour ago. He's saying, I had a very productive call with the BB of Israel, and there will be no troops going into Beirut, and any troops that are on their way have already been turned back. Likewise, through highly placed representatives, I've had a very good call with Hezbollah, and they agree that all shooting will stop, that Israel will not attack them, and they will not attack Israel. All right, I'll have to find out more when the show's over. Iran tried to get frisky this weekend or today and said, "Hey, we're gonna not negotiate with you." And hey, roll the dice, Iran. Good for you, man. Like you think that's the best option for you? Have at it. The list is long and distinguished of the people who have bet against Trump, who thought they could outweigh him, who thought they were smarter than him, who thought that they knew something he didn't know. Just like most people who listen to the leftists or the globalists or any of them, the IRGC, I suspect, is finding out slowly that they have been used and they are going to be in a bad spot. Only for them, it probably means most of them are going to be dead. All right, well, that's what's happening with that. Now let's get into the American system because it has to do with all of these things. What is the American system? Well, Scott Bessent gave a speech last week at the Reagan Foundation event that got a fair amount of press, and it should have. It was brilliant. The speech itself is only about 16 minutes long. I think I have a link up on the X, The Ord American. All of the stuff we talk about is in that thread. Go on there, like, subscribe, follow. You'll get all the information. Scott Bessent gave a speech where he essentially laid out the American system point of view and what we're doing. A lot of it got some press. I'm going to try to show a couple of clips that didn't get as much press because I think it's important. As you know, on here, we talk a lot about, well, not a lot, but we try to talk a bunch about physical, mental, and spiritual health because part of the left's plan is to keep us spiritually, mentally, and physically sick. Okay, and physically and mentally, that's health stuff. One of the things that Bessent mentioned, let me see if I can find it here, is the health stuff. And what he was basically saying, which is true, is that you have to control the medicine. You have to control what you need to keep your citizens safe. Now, it's in a larger context. What he's really saying, which he said earlier, which I'm not going to show, is in any country that wants to be great, you have to control all the component pieces, certainly energy, medicine, food, component pieces to shelter, infrastructure like highways and transportation. If you don't control all of that, you are subject to the whims of whoever does. We in America have allowed that to get away from us for decades. We were told it was great if China could make something cheaper because then we wouldn't have to pay more for it. Why were they telling us that? They were telling us that because they were printing our money so much that they were printing away the purchasing power of it. This is the fiat problem. This is the Bitcoin's the solution. So as they're driving down the purchasing power that we have and inflating away the value of our money, they're telling us, hey, don't worry, we'll get China to make all this stuff cheaper. Okay, well, there's trade-offs to that. One of them is you stop learning how to make things. Okay, now before I show this thing, I want to just share a quick story. I couldn't find the clip, The great Victor Davis Hanson gives a great example of why it's important for countries to make things. In World War II, tanks were a big part of the battles, Germans versus the Americans. And of course, you need your equipment working and on the field of battle. Okay, if it's not working and not on the field, it's no good to you. The Germans prior to World War II thought that they were the most advanced society. They thought they were the smartest, and they thought they had the biggest brains, and they knew more than everybody. It brought us Hitler. Okay, so spoiler alert, you weren't the smartest. But they looked down on manual labor, oversimplified. And so one of the things that Victor Davis Hanson points out that was a determining factor in the battles in Europe is that when it came to tanks, we had more tanks that were on the battlefield more often and more operational, more hours out there. So maybe the Germans had better technology in some cases, or maybe not, but they weren't working all the time. And why were our tanks on the field more? Because our soldiers, our GIs, our young men, our ancestors, they knew how to fix things. Why? Because America, basically from post-Civil War through, unfortunately, the 1913, and then a little bit later, made things. And one of the things that Scott Bessent is saying is we have to be able to make things. That's the American system. We're going to make things. We're not going to be isolationists, but we are going to make things, not only our critical components, medicine, infrastructure, food, energy, etc., but we're going to make other things. So you are what you make. That's the crux of the American system, or as Scott Bessent says, economic power is national security. So if we have economic power, then we have the ability to have national security. Okay, so I'm going to put this up and we're going to run through it. There's a couple of things in here. This is when he's talking about the medicine. Just listen to this for a minute.
Section 232 investigations involving personal protective equipment, medical consumable devices, and robotics. The strategic message is unmistakable. Supply chain resilience in medicine will no longer be an afterthought. This broader reorientation is also visible in the administration's trade agenda for 2026 as we work to secure reciprocity, strengthen domestic production, and align America's external economic relationships with our core national interests. Taken together, these efforts reflect the broader principle that President Trump has articulated clearly. Economic security is national security. But let me be direct about what that doctrine does not mean.
We'll come back to that. Economic security is national security. You need your medicine. You need your energy. That's drill, baby, drill, okay, which we have been doing. There was he did a great post last week where he showed a ship that was going to Japan, and it had almost 1 million barrels of oil. And he was showing, this is great. This is what we're doing. You have to make this stuff. You can't be reliant on other people. He's going to get to here in a second. That doesn't mean you isolate, because of course you're going to have to trade. Let's listen.
It does not mean retreating from the world. On the contrary, it means engaging with it on a stronger, fairer, and more sustainable terms. It does not mean severing ties indiscriminately. It means distinguishing healthy interdependence from dangerous overdependence. It does not mean rejecting efficiency. It means refusing to worship efficiency when efficiency leaves our nation exposed. And it does not mean treating allies and adversaries alike. It means bringing our trading relationships and our security relationships back into alignment by building supply chains with trusted partners where appropriate, rebuilding capacity at home where necessary, and ensuring that the economic architecture supporting American power strengthens American security.
Bam. Okay. This is refreshing. This is exciting. This is common sense. This is what we haven't had for decades. Okay. Scott Bessent is laying out. And by the way, this isn't new. We've been doing this. And I showed in episodes past Jameson Greer's speech in Davos, where when he was being questioned by that arrogant European lady, he basically said with a smirk, we've been at this for a long time preparing. This isn't new. Trump's people were preparing for this. They thought they could win. 77 million other people thought they could win too. And they've been implementing. And you can see this when we get to Susan Kokinda here in a second. She points out, and you're going to see how the rest of the world can't resist what's going on because of what Bessent is saying. Okay? We're going to get all of this stuff onshored again. We're going to use the power of our economy to drive better deals. Quick detour about, let me take that off for 1 second, a quick detour about tariffs. I'm a guy who spent the last 30 plus years reading everything from Sowell and Friedman and Hayek and Rothbard and Mises and who else? Every economist that I could find who spoke common sense, okay? And would read about free trade. We heard about the tariffs and said, oh, the tariffs are going to raise all the prices for us. Why hasn't that happened? It hasn't happened because the tariffs get absorbed along the way in the supply chain of getting that product to us. But the reason why it's important is because free trade is a great idea, but we don't have free trade because all the countries don't play by the same rules. Quick example, China wants to make furniture. They say, we want to make, couches. How much do they sell for in America? They sell for $100. Okay, China, you manufacture and sell furniture for $30. Well, that costs us, $80 to make. Don't worry about it, the government says. You just sell it for $30. We'll make up the difference. They dump it on the American market. The American manufacturers go out of business. Why? They can't sell it for $30. The Chinese then have two things they can do. They can either just soak in the market that they've just destroyed and created demand for themselves because they got rid of other suppliers, or they buy that American company because they're going out of business. And then what do they get? Access to all the IP. Now, maybe there's not IP in a furniture company, but that you get the point. They buy all of those assets. Now they're Chinese. That's not free trade. We can't compete with that. What Scott Bessent is saying there is we're no longer being a knucklehead and saying, that doesn't matter. We're going to do free trade. Milton Friedman said free trade. If Milton Friedman was here, I am sure he would say, look, if they're going to use, by the way, that's just one example of how they distort the market. There are many others, including currency manipulation. So Scott Bessent is saying we're not being stupid anymore. Okay, we are going to, just looking for my clock. We're looking for a realistic relationship. That's what the tariffs are doing. Germany's a good example. Germany's eviscerated their economy because they're idiot leftists. What happens? Trump says, we'll make that stuff over here and you pay no tariff. What do the companies do? Sorry, homeland, I'm going to America. The economy is too strong and I don't have to pay a tariff. That's what Bessent is talking about. That's what he's talking about. All right, I'm going to try to see if I can skip ahead here and find I'm close. He has a comment here that I just think is spectacular. Hold on 1 second. Where is it? Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, this is money that's stolen from the Iranian side.
And you jumped right in.
And we jumped right in. And they've been very good partners. I believe that
Seized
just outright grab the wallets. Some of them may be like typing in right now and realize they might not have realized that their wallet had been grabbed.
He's giddy. Okay, $1 billion of their crypto. We'll skip over the Bitcoin versus crypto conversation. They're grabbing the Iranian IRGC crypto. Come back to that in a second. Just listen to this.
And we are working with our allies all over Europe to grab villas and houses and properties, and this is money that's stolen from the Iranian people.
But you've frozen the offshore accounts. I mean, people may not understand that the Revolutionary Guard, they own so many of the businesses. They've been stealing money from the Iranian people for decades and decades and decades.
We think
they're all living high off the hog, retirement accounts and condominiums, God knows where.
We think they were stealing $400 or $500 million a month.
Right.
All right, so this is helpful to make 2 points. Okay, one, Bessent is a rock star, and he is going in and he is taking what he can from the IRGC. He's taken their Bitcoin, he's taken their crypto, he's taken villas and whatever else he was talking about, other assets in Europe and other places. First of all, why does the IRGC have villas? That's our money that Obama gave them that they then turned into villas. And when they say the IRGC, what are they talking about? You think that there's like like a committee, and all the IRGCs have a little bit of like a timeshare, and I got to go over there. No. These are individuals at the top of the food chain, taking care of everybody below the food chain to keep their power. They're stealing all this, as Larry Kudlow and Bessents were talking about this, from the Iranian people, and they've been doing it for 47 years. You can look this up. The Ayatollah got control of created some company which had over 240 billion in assets when he was killed. Okay, that's the Iranian. They didn't make anything. You think the IRGC is sort of moonlighting with a side hustle of creating an app or a new iPhone or something? No, they're just stealing it. This is how the left always operates. So along with the American system of making things at home, we're not being retarded when it comes to dealing with our enemies. We're going after them from all angles. In the show, The West Wing, which I mentioned a few times on this show, because I used to watch it and liked it. And I always say it couldn't be made today because it's not realistic. It's too, what I would call, balanced. There is a scene early on where the president has to do what they call a measured response, and he's pissed. He's right to be pissed. This is not a measured response. This is a real response. Take their assets. Those IRGC guys who today are saying, I think we're going to roll the dice with Trump, part of the reason why is because they're waking up and finding out that their crypto's not there, or that their money's not there, or that their villa's not there, and their plan B is gone. This is Trump, okay? This is when you get a real leader who's willing to look at the world as it is, not as we hope it would be, and not lie to us. He got that Truth Social out. I don't know how long before, but I was reading about what was going on there this morning, and he's communicating to us. Direct communication. This is leadership. Now, I want to put up Susan Kakinda because this ties right in. Gotta take that down. Sorry about all the trying to work with the tech here. This ties in. This is the beginning of her last episode. Listen to what she says here.
Chairman of JP Morgan Chase, the biggest bank in America, went on Fox News and made a confession to Maria Bartiromo.
Why did it take so long for corporate America to understand that the supply chains and by the way, elected officials, Congress and the White House, how come it's taken so long to understand that we can't have other countries, particularly adversaries, making our stuff? That's important.
We should have 15 years ago.
Think about that. The man at the very center of the financial system that hollowed out American industry in the first place now says that it was a mistake and we should have seen it 15 years ago. And he's not.
He should have seen it 15 years. He didn't want to see it, but he knew what was happening 15 years ago. He was lining his own pocket. This is what's been going on. The American system is changing all this. And what she goes on to say here, and we're going to skip around in this little section here, because I want to show a bunch of other things. But what she goes on to say is all of the people who participated in the globalist agenda, the big banks, that's Jamie Dimon, the City of London, the British Imperial Empire, Carney up in Canada, who now is in a recession. They're all talking a new tune now. They're all talking about essentially what Trump and Bessent and Hegseth and everybody else is talking about. But as she points out, you can't do that without the underlying belief in values, and they don't have it. They're still looking to extract wealth. Trump is looking to do great things for America. And we're seeing that, by the way, also in the foreign policy, sovereign nations talking to each other directly. All right, I want to skip ahead a little bit in this because there's another piece of this I wanted to get to. Hold on one second.
We heard from Mark Carney and Tony Blair, two of the most notorious operatives of that rules-based post-war order. Then Jamie Dimon chimed in for good measure. So Canada's Prime Minister and the central banker's central banker, Mark Carney, was at the New York Economic Club on May 28, where he repeated his now familiar line that the rules-based order is ruptured by Donald Trump's policies and that clinging to it nostalgically is not an option. But then he launched into his new Canada Strong pitch.
So in our first year in government, we cut taxes on incomes, on capital gains, on new business investments. We introduced something called the productivity super deduction. We're in the process of catalyzing $1 trillion of investment in Canada over the course of the next 5 years in energy, transportation, data, and defense. We've launched our most significant regulatory reforms in generations to fast track hundreds of billions of dollars of nation building infrastructure projects. And we're realizing our full potential as an energy.
I can't listen to him anymore. This guy, it's like he has been, he's in the classroom and he's looking at Trump's test and he's copying Trump's test. The leftist is saying we're cutting taxes and we're bringing in investment. Please. He's desperate. Okay. And he's coming back and he's eventually going to, and Trump, by the way, because only like Trump can do, he's going to welcome him in, he's going to hug it out with him, and we're going to do deals. Next section here.
Who we'll hear from in a minute. But in that clip we showed at the top of the show, Jamie Dimon acknowledged that outsourcing was a disaster. He also jumped on board to agree with the new Fed chairman, Kevin Warsh, on the need to reduce the Fed's balance sheet, which has been a source of almost free money for Wall Street since especially the 2008 blowout. After making those mea culpas, he waxed eloquent about the former might of the United States when we were the arsenal of democracy.
You got to read the book Freedom Forge, how the America got fully engaged after Pearl Harbor. Like we went from building almost no ships, no tanks, no aircraft to, we built 144 aircraft carriers in 4 years. There was no car produced in America from 1943 to 1945.
Wow.
All those plants, all of them, and not just GM and Ford, all those plants were building bombers, fighters, tanks, jeeps, ships. We went from building a Liberty ship in 1 year to 2 days. And so it's just...
Okay.
In the checkout counter.
But by the way, what's with this shirt? What is he, like 1970s? Like I don't know. So he got some stylist telling him, you're going to look younger or something. I don't know. Okay. But what he's saying is true. The American system, which FDR was basically trying to implement, was saying we have to make things here. Now, in that particular moment in time, we were making things to fight a war. Okay, we are not technically in a hot war. Iran's, in my opinion, not a hot war, but it's a conflict. But what Trump is trying to do, what he is doing, is we're bringing back manufacturing. We've been over the trillions and trillions that are coming in investments, and he is definitely trying to decrease the regulations. The one thing that I don't think anybody's really talking about, we do drill, baby, drill on this show a lot. Awesome. We need as much oil and gas as possible. What we haven't spent enough time on, we've mentioned it a couple of times, is the US government is now investing in nuclear because nuclear is the future. So oil and gas is awesome. We need as much of it as possible. But the nuclear reactors are getting smaller and smaller. I'm mentioning it because Trump is taking the time it takes to get this stuff built, licensed, et cetera, and shrinking it while maintaining safety. And the size of these nuclear reactors are going from those crazy giant things we see from the 70s on a river, cooling tanks, to things that are as big as like an 18-wheeler. So you can wheel it in, use it, and move it around. And over time, that'll get smaller and smaller. I mean, I suspect at some point it'll be fueling cars, okay? And we're investing in it. All right, now she's getting towards the end here. So let's listen to how she winds up. By the way, if you're not paying attention to Susan Kakinda and Barbara Boyd, you're just missing out on a huge amount of information that they digest for us and they talk to us about. And they do, 3 or 4 videos a week, and they're well worth it.
Not the factory gate. And then Bessent asserts what we abandoned and what we have to go back to.
Somewhere along the way, we lost sight of a foundational principle that previous generations understood instinctively. Economic security is national security. For a nation that cannot manufacture, mine, ship, or refine its needs gradually, cedes its strength and sovereignty to others. That is a dangerous dependency for any country, where manufacturing is more than output on a balance sheet. It is a reservoir of practical capability. Engineers and welders, tool and die makers, logistic networks, plant managers and workers who know how to solve problems on the factory floor. But America has awakened. We are alert to the fact that a resilient economy is the foundation of a strong republic, that we can measure the health of our economy not merely by what it produces, but whom it lifts, that secure supply chains matter as much as stock indices, that productive capacity is power.
That last sentence, productive capacity is power, is the heart of the American system. Measure your economy from the Hamiltonian standpoint of the productive powers of labor. That is, our ability to transform nature, to subdue the earth, and to multiply. When that is unleashed, no amount of sloganeering by Tony Blair or Mark Carney is going to overtake that.
Okay? That's it right there. Susan Kakinda, genius. Victor Davis Hanson was talking about that when he was talking about the tanks. We could fix things because we produced things back in the United States. So when we were out on the field, we knew how to fix it because we made it. You need to be able to do these things. You need to be able to solve problems. You can't just be a consumer nation. I don't have permission to mention his name, but a friend of my father's was one of the biggest agricultural producers in the country. And when NAFTA was being discussed, he said exactly this: we have to be able to produce our food. This is going to eviscerate us. He adapted, he overcame, he was extremely successful, but it wasn't good for us, which is why Trump has been undoing all that. And what Susan Kakinda is talking about there is we have to be able to make stuff. Commerce over conflict, we are what we make. It's just, things are going great in America. Today, we got problems with Iran, the stock market down. If you're a Bitcoin believer like I am, and I hope you are, and if you're not, I hope you'll learn about it. Come here for it. Reach out to us, The Ordinary American at proton.me, or on X, The Ord American. Bitcoin is freedom money. Bitcoin is the solution to the politicians decreasing our purchasing power by inflating the money away. From 1971, the dollar's lost something like 99% of its value. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. Which means that I can make the same amount of money and go poor. We need to be able to fix things. We need to be able to build things. We need to be able to have financial security. We need to have medical security. We need to have production security, energy security. And we in America are lucky. We have the ability to do all of this through what I would call economic strength, because everybody wants to come and do business here. Everybody. The dominance of the dollar isn't going away because everybody wants to do business here, number one. And number two, as corrupt and broken as our system is, and we talk a lot about that, it's still the least corrupt of any of the other systems. No one's going to go and trust China or trust Russia. No one. They might do deals with them from time to time, but they're not going to en masse trust their economies or think that they can get a fair shake in their courts. Okay? We're taking advantage of that. By the way, the founding fathers knew all about this. They saw the country and said, we have natural borders, 2 oceans, the Arctic frost up top. We got to protect the southern border. They knew that. We got to go coast to coast. They knew we had natural resources we could exploit, which we do, feed ourselves, feed the world. They didn't know necessarily about oil, but they knew there were natural resources. The American system. Trump is doing it. Feel good, okay? Feel good about this. If you have TDS, you got to get help. This show hopefully is doing that for you, but you got to go put on a MAGA hat, or you got to go to a Trump rally, or you got to do something, because you're going to be left behind. We're going to jump over to LA now and talk a little bit about the election, because it's not just a mayor's election. This is going to show us a whole bunch of things. How corrupt have the Democrats become? Certainly in California. How corrupt? I already saw this morning somebody in California saying, oh, we won't have the results at the end of the day. Why not? Because they don't want to have the results at the end of the day, because they think that Pratt's going to do great and they need to come up with the ballots to corrupt things. I put this on X. I hate to say this because I don't want government involvement in anything if we can avoid it. That's not true. Defense, etc. But limited government, small problems. But at some point, we got to think about how corrupted those elections are and whether or not the DOJ's got to go in and at least observe, maybe. I'm not sure. Just putting it out there. Okay. But it's going to be able to show us, one, how corrupt are the Democrats and how desperate are they, because they have to be so corrupt that they know we're going to find it, because they've got their home base, LA and California. And is there going to be a takeover by Pratt? And they know if Pratt wins, it absolutely means he's going to bring in the DOJ, CDC, Treasury, everything. I suspect strongly he will call Trump and he will say, please help us with crime. He's going to. Now, if you're a person in LA I'm going to tee up the next video here. If you're a person in LA and somehow or another you're thinking, oh, well, I don't want that. I hate Trump. If you hate Trump more than you want a safe city, you are sick and you need help. And one of the antidotes for that is just to vote for Trump. Okay? First thing I'm going to put up about this. We talked a while ago, Sergey Brin, one of the founders of Google, he left California. There it is. He left California. Why? Because it sucks. Okay? This is a tweet from Pratt earlier today. Common sense. Google co-founder Sergey Brin's rightward lurch continues. He donated to Spencer Pratt this week. Okay, so that's him right here. And he donated $1,800. Okay, now he lives in Nevada. So he left California. Now, I'm bringing that up to say, okay, great. We'll take his $1,800 for the good guys. But let's not lose track of the fact that he was spending tens of millions over the last 20 plus years to make sure the Democrats had complete and total control of California. And now he's acknowledging, oops, that didn't work. I was wrong. How do we know that? Because he left. If it was going so great, he wouldn't leave. He left, and now he's giving to Pratt. I want to play, if you, all right, here it is. There's a show, now it's been off the air for a lot of years. It's called Entourage. It's about a group of, wait a second. There it is. Okay. It's about a group of guys from New York. One of them is going to become a big movie star. They go out to LA, and it's about their journey with the movie star and all of his friends, loosely based on Mark Wahlberg's life. Doug Ellen is one of the creators. This is a rant. It's a little long, so I may not play the whole thing, that he put out, I think, this morning. He is a lefty. In other videos, he's acknowledged he's a hardcore lefty. But just listen to this for a second. Let's see if I can get it up.
One of 15 cameras that I now have at this house. 2 German Shepherds, 3 legal guns. 5 years ago, didn't lock a door here, but you know what happened? 2 animals invaded my house. And no, I'm not racist because they were wearing masks. I don't know if they were white. I don't know if they were Jewish. I don't know if they were fucking rabbis. I know they were animals because they invaded my house. I know I don't care what their excuses are, like a lot of you fucking care. I know invaders of homes should get 20 years. But I'm not paranoid, so I don't believe your bullshit about the stats and the crime, because everyone in my neighborhood has got the same problem. They're fucking all putting cameras and hiring security guards because we're all getting broken into. It's not made up. It's not false. And this city has collapsed in the last 5 years. There is no fucking denying it unless you have an agenda, and I don't know what that is. But you say, oh, Spencer Pratt has no experience. So how can we possibly think about this? What experience did Karen Bass have, or Rick Caruso, who we know can build things, who we know can fix problems, when you made sure he couldn't win? So right now, you're putting people in the same position that you did with Trump, who I did not vote for, by the way. You put him in by making sure we had no fucking options, okay? And that's where we are in LA, and we want to fix this place because we don't want to be forced out. I'm one of the people who made this city look great. I did it for years. I glorified it. I meet people all the time that moved here because the show that I fucking created, and they hate it here now. Hate.
Okay, so he got a little crazy there at the end with his I created stuff, but he did. So the show was about LA. It was about young guys going to LA. It was always landmarks everywhere. I moved to LA at the beat when that show first came on the air. So to some degree, I was sort of experiencing LA. I wasn't like them, but in the same way, seeing the landmarks, seeing the things. And he's right. He did make LA look great. And what is he saying there? By the way, let's assume he's a super successful producer, creator in Hollywood. He seems to have wherewithal. Okay. What he's saying there is what we've talked about a lot. He says, whatever your agenda is, I don't know. Yes, you do. You just don't want to say it. Their agenda is the same as yours was until you got fed up. You want to be invited to the right party. The mean girls are too mean. You can't stand up to them. You want to get industry cred, and everybody like Sergey Brin spending money to get Democrats in. You want to go to those parties. You want to get your project off the ground, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody's just going along with it. And this is what happens. And he's got to put in his thing there about, oh, I didn't vote for Trump. Like that's some like badge of honor. from a person like me, that's your problem, that you didn't vote for Trump. Now, I'm thrilled that he's coming around. But what he's really saying there, the subtext, is I threw money at all the problems that I was creating by not voting for Trump, by voting for Democrats, by putting Democrats in a position of power, by giving them total and complete control over LA and California. I was throwing money. I was getting cameras. I was getting guns. I was getting German Shepherds. I was throwing money. You can see that he lives in a place with, if not gates, certainly high shrubs. He was doing all those things. And then finally, it's too much. He can't take it anymore. So once he couldn't throw enough money in it to fix it, now he's had enough. The great Dan Bongino, the New York observation. New York switched to Giuliani. Not the first time he ran. Things weren't bad enough. That's Bongino's brilliant observation. It was the second time he ran. Why? Because there were over 2,000 murders a year, and people had had enough. We will suffer for a very long time. Doug Ellen is that guy's name, by the way, in case I didn't mention it. And I love the show Entourage. So I'm angry at him, and I'm happy to have him. But he is part of the reason that LA became this way. But he's now had enough. You can see him. He's pissed. He's angry. He didn't mention anything about his kids. I don't know if he has kids. I assume that he does. He doesn't want his kid. He can't let his kids go out and play and run and be out in the neighborhood, because he was just saying his house and all of his neighbors are getting broken into. Come on. We don't have to let it get that bad. Spencer Pratt is running. The election is tomorrow. If you're watching this from LA or you have a friend from LA, send this to him. They need to bring 50 people to the polls, drive as many people as possible, post about it on social media, talk about it at work, email your friends, put it out, talk about it, get the word out, overwhelm the system. If the Democrats are going to try to cheat, which they are, make them have to cheat so much, it becomes so obvious that we get a real sea change where people wake up and say, oh, I didn't think they were cheating that much. Okay? LA is not just another city, and it is not just another local mayor's race. If Spencer Pratt can win tomorrow, and I'm not talking about just making it to the general election, if he wins 50.1%, he wins outright tomorrow. And if he does, by June 15th, LA will be heading in the right direction back to its glory days. He needs to win outright. Just imagine the corruption that's going to go on if he's in the final between tomorrow and what is November? Is it the 6th or the 3rd? I forget, the first Tuesday in November. Imagine the corruption that they will do. Imagine the damage that will have to be unwound. All right, out to vote. All right, just a couple of things as we wind it down here. Stephen Miller, he is, well, actually, you know what? Skip him for 1 second. What is it with ticks? I've said this a couple of times, and I don't really even know what more to say than why Lyme disease we created, and now we got a vaccine, and we're supposed to trust these companies who gave us the COVID vaccine, who lied to us, who made us sicker. I didn't take it. I didn't have my daughter take it, thank goodness. People who did take it, we know turbo cancers, we know heart issues, but now they've got a vaccine for Lyme disease. Like, what is it about the ticks? And now we got this alpha-gal syndrome, which they say they're coming up with a vaccine for this. It sure looks like the Three Stooges, ants in the pantry that I've talked about and shown plenty of times, where they go out and they put bugs in the back door, go to the front door and say, hey, do you want an exterminator? Doesn't that seem like this? And why ticks? And now I looked last week, and I think I mentioned it. We got Google wanting to release these genetically modified mosquitoes in California and Florida for some reason. Why do we have to mess with nature? Did nobody see the island of Dr. Moreau? It never goes great. Okay? Come on. We got to stop with this stuff. We don't. What unbelievable thing is happening that we've got to interfere with nature and these mosquitoes? That seems like the beginning of a horror movie. And with these ticks, what is going on? Okay, one last item. I can't help myself because it's such an important topic. This is from Stephen Miller, one of Trump's main guys. I think he's the assistant. What is he? I forget his title. This was the plan all along, to get them here illegally so they can get free government benefits, get hooked to welfare, and be able to participate in American elections. This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. Yes, we're seeing that in LA. Okay, they need more time. How many people voted there in this election that aren't citizens? We're already seeing that they got people signing the referendum questions being paid. Okay, this is why they opened the border. America could have open immigration in the late 1800s for decades because we gave them no money. As Milton Friedman says, you can't have an open border and a welfare state. A, you'll run out of money, and B, everybody will come because you're paying them, you're incentivizing them to be here. So then what's the value of being a legit citizen who goes to work? You're an ordinary American who's just getting up every day to go work, to make something, to help your family, and you're going to live next to or around the block or read about these illegals who are coming in and getting thousands of dollars in cash, housing vouchers, free health care. What Trump has been doing brilliantly is he has been taking away as much as he can all of that free stuff. And when he does that, guess what happens? They leave. Shrink government. All right. So much going on. Trump gets more. Oh, geez, I didn't even put it up. That's great. Sorry, people. I got carried away. That's what I was trying to put up. Okay. Trump gets more done in a day than I think most presidents did in a year. And it's contagious. You can see that with Carney. You can see that with Britain. People love prosperity. The leftists don't want prosperity. They want control. They want control of everything. And by the way, all you young people, it's never equal. We just showed you the IRGC. They're supposedly socialists or communists or whatever leftists they are. They always accumulate the assets and the wealth at the top. The little people take it in the teeth. Always. It's a lie. They use you. All right. The Ordinary American. I'm Paul Sarkis. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Looking forward to it. There's more to talk about. Appreciate you being here. Pass it on, like, subscribe, and follow. There's a lot of people that we need to get to before the midterms. Let's start with tomorrow. Get this to people in LA. As the great Father Mike Schmitz says, I'm praying for you. Please pray for me. And I'll say I'm rooting for you. Please root for me.